Hey everyone, Sarah Genome here, founder of Esteem Builders Coaching. So today I want to do a quick tip on how to go from a should life to a want to life. So what I'm seeing a lot recently and have been for years now is people who are living a should life. So if you don't know what a should life is, it is when people say, well, I'm supposed to do this, or I'm supposed to do that, or I should be at this point, or I should do this, or is this what I should do? And so they constantly are saying that word. And so usually, should is an indication of either comparing yourself to others, or when we compare ourselves to our perception of the culture that we live in and the norms. So a typical should is for females, I am 35 and I should be married by now. And so if you're 35 and you're not married, you're freaking out because our culture and society says that by 35 people are married. And so they go around freaking out over this should life because they're not meeting the perceived expectations of the culture that we live in. And when we can't meet perceived expectations, that creates anxiety and it creates a feeling of low self-worth and decreases our perception of our value. And so when people say should or need to or supposed to, it's kind of like a red flag. Like I literally hear sirens going off. And it's a red flag that it's not something that they're necessarily doing for themselves or because they believe in it, but it's because of pressure from society around them. So I'm going to give you a quick little tip on how to move from a should life, because should lives are not fulfilling. They're based on other people's expectations of you, to a want to life. A want to life is a fulfilling life because you're doing it because it's fulfilling an intrinsic value inside of you. So it's really easy, or at least on paper it is. So here is my nifty little document, and it's literally as simple as grab a blank sheet of paper and write should, could, want to, and create your little columns. So up here I also have need to, because sometimes people say need to instead of should. And then what you do is you just write down and you brain dump all the things that you should be doing. All those messages that are stuck in your head of I should look a certain way, I should act a certain way, I should have a certain amount of money, I should have a certain status or a certain career, should make certain decisions, I should exercise in order to lose weight. I don't like exercise, people. I cannot stand going to gyms, okay? I literally walk into a gym and I want to jump up and down and cheer and be like, woohoo, I'm here. Because that's the biggest challenge is for me to get to a gym. So I want to move and hike and adventure and have fun. So exercise or go to a gym that I should do, I don't want to do it. I could do it, but I don't want to do it. But I want to move and have fun and go on walks and hikes and look at nature, okay? So another example, and it's actually one that I did with a client about a month ago, is the should that he had stuck in his head was I should be financially sound and out of debt by 30 years old. So he is 32 and he has credit card debt and student loan debt and feels like he should have better grasp on his finances. So we tackled this one issue in our coaching. So we have the should column, and then so that's step one is you write down what the should issue is. And then step two is the could column. And so here is where you get creative. And you write down anything and everything that you could do, whether it seems realistic or whether it seems completely absurd. So for him, we wrote down he could pay $400 a month towards his debt. He could set aside money to travel while he's paying off his debt because travel is very important to him. He could be creative on how he saves money through Groupon or clipping coupons for groceries or websites like the Penny Hoarder, things like that. He could get comfortable with being in debt. He could let go of that should mentality and just say, hey, I'm a free spirit who wants to travel the world and not worry about retirement or debt. If I rack up credit card debt, I rack up credit card debt. I am a person who could be comfortable with a bad credit score and lots of debt. That is an option. It is a definite could. He could get a second job. He could open a special account where it's a no-touch account where he puts money in to pay off debt. He could reduce his current bills. He could get rid of cable. He could lower his cell phone bill. He could get rid of like frivolous or like extras like Sirius Radio or Netflix and things like that. So he could reduce his current bills. He could consolidate debt. He could reduce spending. So we have this huge list of all the coulds. So that's step 2, is you just list all the coulds that you can possibly think of. Whether you would want to do them or not isn't the thing. You just brain dump all the things that you could do and get creative as possible. And then you go to the want to column. And so what you do is you go down through each could and you say, well, I could pay $400 a month towards my debt. Do I want to? And if the answer that first pops in your head is no, I don't want to do that, then you don't move it over to that column. You move on to the next option. You go, I could set aside money for travel. Do I want to do that right now? And his response was no. So we didn't move it over to the want to column. Then we got down to be creative on how to save money. And I said, do you want to do that? And he said, yes, that was a want to. So we moved it over to the want to column. He could get comfortable with being in debt. And he said, no, that's not something that he wants to be comfortable with. So we didn't move it over to the want to column. He could get a second job. He said no. He could open a no-touch bank account. He said no, that wasn't realistic for him right now. He could reduce his current bills. He said yes, he wanted to do that. So we moved that over to the want to column. We said he could consolidate his debt. And he said yes, he wanted to move that to the want to column. So out of all the options of the coulds, he came up with 3 things that he wanted to do. So when you want to do though, you own it and you're more likely to follow through with it. So he became creative with how he saved money and started using Groupon, started going out to restaurants less, started couponing, things like that. He also decreased his current bills and he met with a debt consolidation counselor and did that. Before we met, he was frozen in this whole should mentality. So when we're living a should life, slowly but surely, he went from being frozen and immobile and living stuck in the should mentality. So that means that this might not actually be something I want to do, but this might be a goal that. So then you ask yourself, is this a goal I actually want? Dating debt. That'll get you moving and that'll get you